Now we're learning that the total number of appointments and treatments postponed due to strike action in England, NHS England, has now hit the 1 million mark, a miserable landmark, but one that you have to take into account because it's getting worse and worse and worse. Let's talk to same day Dr GP, Dr Laurence Gerlis. Good morning, Laurence.
Morning, Kevin.
Well, here we are. You know, we've reached this 1 million mark of appointments, treatments, surgeries that have been cancelled due to strikes. We already knew that 885,000 surgeries have been cancelled since Christmas because of it. Last week alone, when the consultants and the junior doctors, rather spitefully in my view, synchronised their walkouts, 45,000 appointments were cancelled. This is just out of control, isn't it?
Totally. The doctors will tell you, of course, that they're going on strike to help the health service, but that's 1 million people. And these aren't just appointments for follow-ups for hip surgery or basic routine stuff. This is cancer patients, it's heart disease patients. I saw a patient last week who's been told by the NHS she's got cancer in her thyroid gland. They've worked it up to the diagnosis point. She needs an operation. She's not been given any date for that operation. I can't begin to imagine what it must be like going to bed at night, knowing you've got cancer in your body and no one is saying to you, we're going to take that out for you, or letting you know when that's going to happen. Multiply that 1 million times, Kevin. It's disgraceful in a civilised country. I'm not sure we're civilised anymore.
I agree. I mean, we're now at this point where, I mean, the number of people who are extremely distressed that they can't get treatment. You know, so many people come so close to getting that operation, and then the night before, you know, when they're already starving themselves, ready for the surgery, the night before they say, sorry, operation's off, we can't get you in for another 3 years. This is what's going on all the time. So essentially, due to these strikes, I mean, there were lots of other problems as well because, of course, for some reason, the government and the NHS decided to turn the NHS into the national COVID service throughout the COVID crisis. If you didn't have COVID, you couldn't get treatment for anything. So that's a backlog problem we've got there. Now these strikes, the net result of it all were these enormous waiting lists, these enormous number of cancellations. We have an NHS, it's just not fit for purpose, is it?
Look, there are lots of very good, hard-working people in the NHS. No one goes into the NHS trying to get rich or wanting to do harm to patients. They're basically good people, but they've been taken over by the phrase groupthink, I think sums it up, such that everyone now believes that they're right to go on strike, that they've got massive support, that it's all the government's fault. I remind people it's not the government that runs the health service, it's NHS England that runs it in England. And we heard last week that NHS England are taking on 244 more staff to set up 3 new departments on equality, diversity, patients and communities. And what frustrates me about that is that government seems to have lost control of it. It's now become a country in itself. The NHS is an independent country in itself that seems to want to run itself the way they run it, and we've got no say in it.
Yeah, Britain has become a health service with a country attached to it. You're absolutely right.